Alright, we're live now. Let me know if there's any audio issues. I set up a new device here recently, and I'm not sure if that's going to give us some problems, but we shall see. So tonight I'm thinking about doing some hard surface explorations. I got a VR setup going, which I'm not going to demonstrate until I know how to use it. But one of the things that I would like to do is get the 3D sculpting tools figured out and bring those right into 3D print. So I have an idea of how that is going to go, but it will require some getting used to the hardware, getting used to the different software packages, figuring out its strengths and limitations. But I thought it would be a good idea, since this is a painting stream, and I've been playing with the sculpting tools, to see if we can narrow down a design so that when it comes to sculpting, I have something that I'm aiming at and not simply, just playing. Now, I do think there is, of course, plenty of space to play, when you're dealing with any kind of artistic venture. However, I think just for the sake of knowledge and learning, if I have an end in mind, have a goal that I'm shooting for, that will better tell me whether or not I'm on track. If you're playing, there's risk involved in that, right? Like, that is if you want to see a product by the end of it. So if you stumble upon something interesting, then you'll feel successful. And if you don't stumble upon anything interesting and you just play with the tools, that can give you some negative feedback. So anyway, all that to say that I think if I have something to aim for, then I have a better idea of whether or not I'm hitting it. So I'm going to do some designs before we get back into the sculpting. So here what I'm doing is I'm just approaching this with shadow, and just to keep things light and fast, I'm doing just a shadow color, soft, and a hard eraser, rather than trying to get all these shapes figured out. Just seeing what is interesting. And with this technique, what I like to do is kind of break it up into two main portions of the vessel. So the top planes would tend to have this kind of armor shell, or a like the skin of the aircraft, and then all the kind of technical fiddly bits have those kind of underneath. I guess it doesn't necessarily need to follow that format, but that's the idea, that all these little dark bits here, that's your your greeblies, radars, and that sort of thing. And then the main body of the vessel, you just leave. blank. I find that that's a pretty quick way to get a read on form. Right. Then I've also got a flat brush here, so that if I want to, get a wide shadow versus a thin, it's just all dependent on the angle. And the nice thing too with this, I just demonstrated a little bit there, but you can get these really quick and dirty cast shadows. Alright, I think this needs some more form coming out here. Make this like a symmetrical thing there, and of that cast a shadow here as well. Alright, I'm not loving this front here, so we'll play with that a little bit. So thus far, it's only been 2 days, I guess, of trying out the VR. I've been using the Oculus, and I find it really pretty intuitive. There's a lot there that's really it's really slick, and I would say it has exceeded my expectations of where the technology's at. Of course, there's little bits about it that are clunky or yet to be ironed out. But I'd say generally speaking, the controls are starting to feel pretty intuitive. Navigating the space, I think that's actually kind of a weird one. Like, I thought it would be difficult to have an environment, that you'd expect to be able to walk around in, and then have that not really be the way that you interact with it, right? Because you have to use like the thumbsticks or whatever to hop from location to location, and different games are going to use go to approach it differently. But anyway, that actually is not too bad. I think there is some room for improvement there. I think the main thing with that is that it there are some kind of spatial things where, like, especially with sculpting, I'd really like to get around the form, walk around the model, and of course you can manipulate the model itself or manipulate the space, like a 3D viewport in Max or any 3D application, but it doesn't it's not the same feeling, I think, as actually walking around a physical sculpture when you are sculpting. And I think I'd like to get something closer to that, approximating that feeling. Though again, I'd say it's very quick and intuitive. I think that the nice thing about it is that you're navigating in 3D space with three-dimensional inputs. You know, when you're working in any 3D software package on the PC, you know, you're translating from 2D space, you know, your 2D inputs on the monitor to you know, three-dimensional space on the, you know, in your the viewport, your working space in the application. And so I think we've gotten used to that, you know, if you've worked in 3D at all. But to be able to just, you know, draw a form and drag it out and, you know, not have to deal with either gravity or the two-dimensional translation from 2D to 3D, you know, the interface issue, that is really nice. All right. There's a little tiny cockpit there. All right, enough about that. To actually focus on the task at hand, make some interesting designs. I'm kind of falling in very similar shape language with a lot of these, so I think I would be wise to back up, maybe do some random shapes instead of trying to control it so much. So I'm just going to do, there's this concept of you know, complicated and simplified edges, and so I'm just going to play with that a bit. I'm going to give ourselves some noise here, and we'll just throw down a bunch of these. And actually, this may be a good opportunity. I do have this, the 3D art pen, or whatever they call that. I almost never use it, so I'm going to try that out because it has a twist on it. So here we'll set the shape dynamics. We'll go to angle and set this to rotation. There we go. Yeah, so I can rotate the pen. This is new to me. Full disclosure. I know this is not a new tool. In fact, I've had it for some time, but I've not had the opportunity, really. Well, I shouldn't say that. When I've thought about using this and getting acquainted with it, it's usually when I have a deadline to meet, and that's a bad time to be trying out new tools. It's better to approach this in the more the off time. Get that a little farther away from that other doodle there. Now, this technique I would usually do with Copic marker in just on paper. And that should be kind of obvious, right? Don't use Copic marker on your screen. It's a bad idea. But anyway, you drop down some dark shapes, and again, it doesn't have to be too controlled. You can be a little random about it. Though we are terrible at random, so you can't really trust that you're really doing something unique each time. It's funny, you'll aim at something different, and then you go back over your work and you go, yeah, okay, these are all pretty similar. But anyway, so how I would approach this with Copic is then you would take another color, like a half, and then you cut in your background. So then what's left is your lighter value there. So you end up with something like that. And then you can come back and then add in some more little details in there. So if we wanted these to be like windows here, maybe those are windows, something like that. We add like a, I don't know, little engine type looking thing here. Add a bridge there. Extend this down so that's a more interesting shape there. Oh, actually got to be on top of that layer there. Of course, you can't draw over the black, with your markers, so you get a little bit of an advantage here with Photoshop in that respect. Well, more than a little bit of an advantage. But the nice thing is when you're actually stuck with some marks on the canvas, it causes you to have to figure those things out, and that's not such a bad thing. Then we do some cast shadows in here to show that some of these parts come out farther than the others. Okay, I can zoom in on that. I mean, it's not going to really make a difference because we're looking for these big shapes, thumbnail type sketches, but just so you can see what it is that I'm talking about here. All right. Anyway, so back up. So obviously the nice thing in Photoshop is we can erase any of those lines that we don't like, which sometimes you just feel like erasing all of them. All right. So that's the idea, and sometimes you can reverse it too. You look at the intent being, okay, you got the cockpit right here, the engine's back here, but then sometimes it's nice just to take the design and consider what it might look like, in reverse. Of course, we can do this also with multiply layer, which would probably make sense. In this case. see, cut that in like so. Cut this shape in a little bit here. There we go. Repeat that motif. You know, sometimes I think that spaceships are just failed gun designs. You know, sometimes have that feel about them. I do like this idea. You know, I repeat this in the design form language, or shape language rather. You know, having this kind of sail that comes down. Though I think it would be totally impractical for a spaceship. Okay. Let's clean this up a little bit here. Tighten all this up. What I don't like about this is that it's, you know, it's got this area back here, but the cockpit is actually this section, so it really is reading a bit off. And I find that with a lot of designs, you know, whether it's architecture or you know, vehicles, you end up with these like inadvertent faces in them. You know, like this, I see like it's like a cyclops with like a mouth, or it's got like two eyes here. Yeah, and it's actually interesting. I was looking at this some helicopter reference a while ago. And there's a row of, I think they're Hind helicopters, but they had them painted like that. You know, obviously somebody had the same idea when they looked at them. Like, man, it looks like it's a face, you know. And then went ahead and painted them to reflect that. All right. This one I could see being some kind of a drone, you know, like a quadcopter type thing. So we just start to pull out what we see in the shapes. I'm seeing something that's very kind of top heavy with a simplified design for the bottom. I don't want to go too far there because I don't want to make a design that obscures the view from the cockpit. back to that. Let's see, what do we see in here? This looks like could be a fairly sleek design here. Maybe, something like a Concorde. Put a little radar on top there. See this. I don't know about all that, but this has got an interesting kind of slope to it here that I like. Let's see. Let's see, actually very similar design aesthetic here. Let's see if we can adjust this a little bit. So it's got this like turtle shape to it. Okay, I'll do something maybe a little taller with these. Echo some of these design elements here. Again, with the faces, I see, those as like eyes or something. It's messing with me. All right, moving on. So I'm going to bring in my secondary color. I'll put this underneath, and we'll start designing our positive shapes here. Let's see, I think I want this to be, well, we'll deal with that one later. Might have gone a little too heavy with this one right here. So I'm gonna dial that one back. Try to simplify that to just one stroke. Same idea here. I think these could be. I don't know if it's any better or worse. Better? Worse? Better? Okay, whatever. Okay, this guy. Actually, I think that's fine without showing that edge. Okay, let's see, similar idea here. This one I haven't quite figured out yet. Like, I think I want this shape to be coming forward, and then it's kind of recedes a little bit there. opposite on the other side. You know. Let me just do those in black. Okay, let's see what else. We got this one. This was almost the exact same idea as this one, just slightly different. Okay, let's see. We have something popping out. I don't know. All right, keep moving on. A little less pressure on that. Yeah, I don't think we really gain much from bringing in this light down here. I mean, I like the idea that the shadow, from this upper form obscures this object here, but it's always form information, so you got to be careful that you're actually explaining the form that you want to explain. Describe may be the better term there. Describe the form that you want to describe. This one kind of reminds me of a Romulan warbird. It's got very similar form here. So. Let me adjust that. Okay. Don't like that. have this like radar dome up there, but I don't think it needs to be too significant in terms of the amount of light that it's getting. You know, some of these last ones here, I don't have a don't really have a clear objective for where I'm headed with them. So what I'm going to do with those is the same idea. Just go in with these more randomized shapes, and then we'll see if something pops out. So it looks interesting and worth developing further. Alright, so we'll go back up. Go back to our shadow color. Let me zoom in here. So this one here, I'm seeing some potential in it. It's got that kind of, what are those vessels, the sand skimmers or whatever? It's got that kind of vibe going on. Get those shadows in. On this layer, I'm just gonna jump between the two light and dark values. I don't feel that it's necessary to maintain a very clean delineation at this point. It was useful earlier in that we could paint behind our shadow layer that we made, and that still might be nice, but we're making refinements at this point. And I would much rather lean towards speed in being able to make refinements more quickly. I haven't gotten used to the pressure on this this new pen. We're doing all right. Excuse me. Hey, looking at the comments here, or the chat. Hey, Joe. Gio? I'm sorry if I'm obviously pronouncing that incorrectly. So help me out if you can. But bear with my mispronunciation. But yeah, it's good to see you again. Hopefully you've got a project pulled up tonight. I think last time you said you were working on your figures. So this might not be too much help, but still maybe the light and dark technique. Just jumping between shadows and light. That adage, paint the light, is it's not wrong. It can help you out quite a bit. Yeah, at this stage, I am just kind of noodling with these designs, and I recognize that I kind of go quiet at some of these points. So if you have a question or a topic, this might be a good time. I'm more than happy to jump in with my thoughts on a topic, and while I'm doing some of this kind of tedious part here where I'm trying to solve some of these design problems and tease out the design potential, I don't usually have much to say at this point. So I'm more than happy to address some questions. I want this to be a alien. Obviously it's kind of alien looking, but I like this idea of the the windows being on all these different kind of levels and not perfectly uniform. Alright, back to the chat. So I'm taking Rostran and Night Chang's courses on Patreon and Class 101 on digital art and freelancing. And I'm still thinking about the advice you gave me a couple weeks ago. Yeah, well, that's great that you're picking up some Patreon stuff. I've actually, been thinking about the same thing. Just finding some artists whose work I really admire and would like to, get a look at how they approach things. And so I'm definitely warming up more to the Patreon idea. That wasn't really a thing, when I started, and I think there's a lot of potential there, as long as you're able to get that feedback and grow from it, then yeah, I think it's huge. All right, let's see this. don't think that these forms here really fit too well. So I might start to cut into those and see how we might adjust that. Maybe do a little greeblies in there. For the Patreons that you were talking about, have you gotten to, or are you in a tier where you'll get at least a video critique, or I mean, if you could get a live critique, that would be pretty awesome too. Excuse me. Let's move on to the next. This I think has some potential. Let's see. I like. See, that's coming off this way. This one can. Whoops, wrong color. For the Ross Strauss Boot Camp, I do get feedback. I'm reading the chat right now. For a night's class, I don't get a critique from the teacher, unfortunately. Well, sometimes sometimes the content is good enough, and there's enough there to to get into that the critique is not necessary. Though I do think there is this value, and this would be the same kind of value as going to school, is that you get that camaraderie, and you get that kind of social pressure to to not let down those who are expecting you to turn something in, and knowing that they're going to look at it and talk about it. I mean, that's a great thing. Excuse me. And I would definitely say, with feedback, this is one of the most important areas in being an artist, is being able to take critique think critically about your work and about the feedback that you're receiving. So, not every comment is correct, right? You know, when someone looks at your work. But if you look at an artist's work and you respect what they're doing, and they have something to say about your work, you know, that's going to carry more weight with it, obviously. And I think, you know, when we really like someone's work, or even if we just, you know, want to show our work to friends or whatever, we want to hear that positive feedback. You know, it's like there's something inside of you that wants to hear, like, oh, this is amazing, it's perfect, you don't have to do anything, you know. But that's not the stuff that produces growth. So it's a really important thing to seek after constructive criticism, and constructive being, you know, a key word there. You don't want just you don't want to be frustrated with your work or frustrated with the feedback that you get. It's got to be something that can help you identify how you can improve. And I think a super important part of that is identifying something that you can carry with you, carry forward with you. You know, not just this one piece, not just one design, but what is it about the way that you analyze your work, and how you can look for these things in the future, right? So whatever that feedback is, try to extrapolate something bigger, some big ideas that you can carry into your other work. You know, so if it's composition, you know, if it's say like hard and soft edges, if it's lighting, those sort of things, I think, okay, what can I... Not that you want to use the same tricks every time or use the same solutions every time, but to develop an eye to be able to see it, you know, to see what a particular piece needs. That's a really important skill. And when you have someone else critiquing for you, it's like you're borrowing their eye. And there will come a point where you'll need it. You'll need to have your own eye, right? And so my suggestion would be to take as much of an opportunity as possible to see how you might apply that feedback towards other things that you've done and other things you're doing in the future. This reminds me, there was this game that I remember playing when I was a kid. It was like, you had this little like infrared sensor on this like ship. It looked kind of like this, and the ship was kind of like a gun, like Duck Hunter kind of gun. But it was shaped like a ship, like this, and then there was a video, that, like a cassette tape that you'd put in, and it would play these. You could play these different levels, and the bad guys had this red, like a red circle, and on their engines. So you had to shoot their engines, and the video would just play, and you'd pew 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 with this like little infrared. gun, and then it would rack up points. It'd be like on the back, it'd be like up here, 22, right? And they would also shoot at you, and that would be like a different color, and the sensor would pick that up. And so if they were going to shoot at you, you had to dodge, which was basically just, you know, point the thing down or put your hand over the sensor or something. Right. Of course, we never cheated. We would never cheat. But yeah, that design reminds me of that. It's old game from like the 90s, I think. But for the time, that was super cool. You know, like we didn't really have anything like that where you could, you know, have a. I mean, Duck Hunter was the closest thing, right? So to have like a sci-fi version was super cool. Okay. Still haven't quite figured this one out. I think when I started, I wanted that to be the cockpit over here, you know, so it would have like this long shape to it. But I kind of gave up on that. I don't know, maybe we'll try it. It's just, I think it's just such a blah kind of shape. Maybe we'll do like a bubble cockpit so you can see all the way down there. Drop a shadow in here. Maybe a little light on top of that. I think there needs to be another window there if you're going to have a bubble canopy, or just have that whole area open. Looking back at the chat, said, honestly, I want to have a voice chat with you to absorb your knowledge and wisdom. You have helped me so much whenever I come to your streams. Yeah, I appreciate that, and I'm glad that you are helped by the streams. As far as doing a voice chat kind of thing, yeah, I think we could set something up. I don't really have like much of official channel to do that kind of thing. Could probably do Discord or something like that, or yeah, Discord would probably be good, or Skype if you have that. You can you already have me on Instagram, so just connect with me there, and we'll get something set up. I don't think I can do it too soon, but yeah, just hit me up on Instagram and we'll figure something out. I think it would be good to see, you know, live, like some of the things that you're working on, and how you're identifying them, right? Because I think that's part of it. Is you know, just like I was saying with feedback, is that you could look at someone's work and you can tell them what you think, just knee-jerk reactions. But I don't think that's as valuable as identifying where the artist's view of their own work is at. And I think that's an important thing for a couple reasons. One is that if you are giving someone feedback and you just tell them what you think, that might not really be relevant to what they're thinking or where they're headed. So it's really important to understand that first. I also think as far as learning goes, for it to be beneficial, like I was saying earlier, with absorbing the critical eye, borrowing someone else's eye for a time, it's important that the eye is developed, and I know that I beat that dead horse. But in order to do so, I think you have to kind of identify what's the next step, right? So it's not really useful, like if you were going to build a house or something, and someone just said, "Oh yeah, okay, well you gotta pour your foundation, and you gotta get your frame up," and they just told you the whole thing, but they didn't have any idea what kind of house you were building, what it looked like, or what your intentions were. It's not going to be very helpful or relevant information necessarily. You can get all the general information, but nothing specific. And then having the next step is super important. So, if you're building that house, we'll continue with that analogy, and you're putting up drywall, well, that would be good to know that that's the step you're on. So that if someone is helping you or advising you, they can tell you how to do drywall and what you need to be thinking about, maybe one step ahead rather than 50 steps ahead and getting into some esoteric house building design architecture philosophy or something. Like if all you need is a little help on the next step, and that's where you're at in terms of growth. I think that's the most valuable thing. Okay, I've exhausted that point and beat it to death. But so yeah, all that to say, having a direct conversation is much more beneficial, I think. All right. Getting a little reminiscent of, the design looks nothing like it, but in terms of the ideas there, that echoes the Blackhawk having this FLIR turret. Actually, a lot of helicopters have this kind of design, but the FLIR on the front, so you can get this full spectrum view. Within your cockpit up top here, with some window cutouts on the bottom, so that if you need to get a view below, you get these floor windows here. Alright, moving on. Get these shadows in underneath the, I don't know, these are like guns or something. You know, I think it was Feng Zhu has this philosophy that you design everything without guns so that it's cool before it has that like power aspect to it. There is something about, you know, weaponry and stuff that it's like the implication of power alone is you know, gets this kind of gut response to the design. And so if you can make the design interesting without using that technique, then you've really got something cool. And then if it actually truly is a you know, some kind of a military theme or design or something, then you can bring that element in later. But yeah, I think he's right on with that point. I think I'm just going to eliminate that, unless maybe it's like a probe or something. It's a little asymmetrical bit going on there. Alright, and when I started sketching this, I was thinking that this would be you know, perhaps some kind of engine or something, but actually now kind of seeing it as either like a radar or a observation little pod there or something. Alright, and then back here, the idea was that was the back of the aircraft, but I don't care for it right now, so gotta figure out all of this form language here and make it meaningful. Push this back a little bit. Drop this shadow from here onto that. Okay, maybe we bring all this into a shape here that's kind of like a sidecar, something like that. I don't know that we need all of this. This stuff back here. And we'll wipe that out. Just covered in glorious light there. Look at that. That's too, that shape is too simplified. I think I want it to be, yeah, you don't hear that too often. Too simplified, you gotta make it more complex. I just don't like that it's just a drum there, you know. I think there's perhaps a more interesting shape we can find here. Rounding it out a bit. Do a little rim light on the bottom here, and this I want to chisel out. We'll come back to that. That's my way of saying I don't feel like fixing that right now. I think it is a beneficial thing to be able to bounce around a little bit. Not too much, but to have a few things burning at the same time, you can see how one is progressing. Cooking, not burning. Don't burn things. Cook things. But yeah, see how it's progressing. And then jump. Jump off a design once that kind of fatigue sets in. Let's see. I like this. This loosely looks like maybe it's got skids or something here. Working a cockpit there. Yeah, maybe get that a little more swept design. I don't know. Alright, on to the next. Which one is crying out to us for more attention? Maybe this one. Going into quiet mode. Sorry about that. Just gotta figure out this shape. So what I'm thinking on this cockpit, can't say that I'm doing it right necessarily, but the thinking is both how would the pilot need to see, and how would you manufacture such a thing in these window shapes. For example, let me zoom in here. Like that sharp edge there to that point, probably not going to build it like that. So I'm gonna work that out somehow. Maybe it's like a B-17 or so. Kind of looks like a TIE fighter there. All right, let me zoom out and simplify this. We'll get back to the original shape, which it's kind of almost, you know, from here forward, kind of going more submarine kind of form language. Little probes down there and stuff. This reminds me, I did a Cobra painting for my brother when he got his wings. He was in the Marine Corps and was a Cobra pilot, and did this painting for him, and you got to do all this research, and of course it was kind of like a surprise, you know, so it was I didn't want to be too on the nose with asking technical questions about the aircraft and stuff. So I was trying to figure out as much as I could online, and anyway, there's always something to get wrong, right? So there was I think a weapon system on the aircraft, and it didn't have the correct like guidance system as well. So I was like, oh, okay, good. I mean, it's cool, except that it has this, but it, you know, no, not the corresponding equipment to go with it, you know. So anyway, you know, when you do projects, you pick up things like that, and it's usually mistakes that stick with you. You know, those are the ones that you go, okay, well, next time. Well, I don't even know if it's a conscious effort that, like, okay, next time I'm going to think about that. I think it's just more like the fact that you made a mistake makes that moment stick with you more, and it's just more memorable, right? Okay, I don't want to go too crazy with like panel lines and stuff, and I also do like, you know, when you can establish some like a broad, like right here, this broad kind of sweep of light. then if you just make little cuts into that, then you can have detail without like breaking everything up and making it losing the main forms. Okay, I'll move on to something else here. How about this one? This one still doesn't do much for me. So I'm not too worried about getting this one just so, right? Like, we'll just play with it till we get perhaps something interesting. Perhaps not. But it's actually, I think it's kind of a refreshing stage to not be too invested in a design. You know, some of these, if they get too precious, you know, I start slowing down, I start trying to preserve, you know, things that I like, and that makes sense, but in the end, you're less aggressive towards you know, taking design risks to make it interesting. So I like this kind of being like this flat kind of sail there. I want to get, in order to sell that form, I kind of have to cut in some of these other shapes to cast shadow on it. I think we'll bring this in, like cast this shadow in closer here. So this is more like a part that's pushing off, or rather, it's a better term for that. is extended, detached, with a maybe like an arm or something that pushes that out away from the body. And then maybe, I don't know, I've been doing this X pattern a lot on these, so I want to be careful not to overdo that, but similar idea here. Something like that. I don't know that I want to do too much with this one. This kind of is what it is. I think this one's got some potential, though it's very unclear, what's going on with that. So this one I can see, if you're looking at the top down, would be like, got this shape in the front, and this crescent. So these would be like this. Probably not very aerodynamic. But something like that. Almost looks like an old like Space Invaders design or something. Not Space Invaders, but those games where you I can't believe I'm forgetting what they're called, but where you just scroll up a screen, bullet dodger, something, bullet, something like that. Let's see if we can get rid of this whole thing without. Yeah, I guess we need to erase it. Edit and let's duplicate this. Wrong button. I think my hotkeys are messed up here. Layer, duplicate. There we go. We're going to add a mask, and then we're going to paint this mask. Well, we'll do. First of all, we'll change this color. And we'll go, I do like that warm blue, and this could be maybe I'm sorry, cool blue, and this would be a warm gray, warm blue. Who says that? All right, let's see. Uh-oh. Oculus just decided to turn on, so it's doing weird things to my computer. Hopefully the stream is not affected by that. Alright, so with this, I'm just going to try to introduce, these cool colors on the top side, warm on the bottom, and then maybe we'll bring in a third tone to be the sky or the background. Okay, so yeah, here's what we'll do. We'll duplicate this. Goodness. Duplicate. And then we'll grab all these. Control G to group it. Now we'll switch our background up here. Let's just, we'll do a sky color. Like that, why not? Now we'll take this, add a mask, and we're going to start masking these out. Maybe we'll do the opposite. We'll actually mask out the shape itself, and then we'll invert our mask at the end. That way, we can see what we're doing, and we don't have to do all of that negative space, because I think that would take us quite a bit longer. We could also try the blend if function, which would be probably pretty quick. But I'm concerned that that would make us crash. Actually, let's do this before I get too deep into this. We'll do Control, or we'll just do Shift, click that. Let's click on a layer here. We'll do Sample All Layers, and we'll see if we can grab this that background color easily. Trying to think, there's probably another way to do this too, but anyway, we'll go with that. So this will be a good way to start, and so we will make a mask with that. Let's see, let's make a new layer, drag down to there, drag this mask onto here, and Control click that, Control Shift I, and fill that as well. So now I'll just clean some of this up in here. And then we're going to invert this. Actually, come to think of it, I don't know if I had a contiguous activated or deactivated when I did that. I wanted to have that on. I don't think I did. Alright, that's probably good. Good enough. Alright. Invert. That might be a little extra cleanup to do. Oops, wrong button. Oh, that's right, these ones had like a smoke layer or whatever. And actually I think we could apply this layer mask to this layer down here. And bring back some of that if we wanted to. It's kind of a balancing act, whether or not you want to bring in the kind of runoff, you know, the smooth edges and stuff off these old ones, lower layers, or whether you want to kind of clean everything up with a new fresh mask. Good. See if I want to tighten that angle up a little more. Alright, I think I'm about coming to the end of this. I think there are a few things I'd like to do. With these, but I think it serves its purpose for iterating some, well, at least starting a first iteration on these designs, and then we can come back to ones that we like and do different variations of them. That's it. This has got this inward gesture there. those to match, at least roughly. Yeah, that's not necessary. Okay. Let's see. Oops, I want this above all that. This is not necessary, but I just felt like adding a little bloom effect on these. Okay. I'm not sure that there's really much more that I want to do other than maybe we'll go, I guess we can do multiply, go here. We are going to pin this down to this layer, like that. And actually, you know, let's do it this way. Get rid of that. We'll add a fill. And we'll pin that to our layer here. Actually, I suppose we can just put it right in there. All we're really doing is using that mask. And then, let's see if we can set this to color dodge or something like that. Okay, so now we'll invert this mask and paint in little paint stripes and stuff like that. And we'll set this to multiply. Hard light actually might make more sense, but we'll get to it when we get to it, because we set this up as you know, this color fill layer, so that's going to allow us to come back and make these whatever we want whatever color we want. I don't want to go too crazy on this. I think we've either got to like fill a section in or leave it mostly undone, right? So that we don't have this, all these stripes coming in and out, right? All right, try this one out. Man, now this looks almost exactly like that toy that I remember. It's buried in my subconscious. Alright, let's see. This might be cool to do like a boat or something where it's more like a horizontal thing. It's looking like who's that artist? Ian McKay, I think. I'm not saying it looks like it. I'm just saying it looks that kind of aesthetic of, sky ships that have that, those distinct colors and so forth. I'm going to do a few more stripes, then we'll adjust the color in the blend mode, and we'll call it there, because it's getting late. Let's do. I want something to counterbalance this angle of shadow. Alright, and then this one kind of looks too much like a jet liner. No, airliner. Okay. All right, so we can adjust the blend mode a little bit here. So let's see, we do like color burn. I like Multiply has an effect no matter what's underneath it, whereas color burn, you can see in the areas that are white, it maintains that brightness, and then it actually pushes a lot darker everywhere else. So linear burn goes a little heavier than Multiply, and it increases the saturation, but it does still have an effect in the whites. Okay, so you can go to overlay, soft, hard light. I'm going to lean towards a Multiply, and then we can adjust the color, to get the effect that we want. And change our hue. Yeah, I do kind of like keeping it in these cools. Somewhere in here. Just has a much more natural look to it, I think. Let's step back. And we'll check our blend modes again to see if we do like what's going on with any of these other ones. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll mix them, I'll just go half with one, half with another. Like, for example, okay, that exclusion looks kind of cool. But we might go duplicate this. Okay, so This one we might go with, we'll go with multiply. And then we'll see, put our exclusion on top. You know, it's going to flatten out the values, but we get like a much kind of more matte finish on that, obviously. So what we can do is we can be a little more selective about this. And this is where Photoshop is probably going to crash if I go in and do blend if, but I'll demonstrate what that would look like. And I guess, you know, if we crash, we crash. We'll just do a screen grab or something, and then go from here. All right, so this I think is looking okay. What we might do, I'll double click this, do blend if, lower layer, and we'll set that white and have that fade out. Okay, sounds like that. And then we'll put our exclusion on there. I'm going to double click this, and we're going to do the opposite. We're going to go darker values we're going to ignore. And we'll see where that lands us. Okay, something like that. So you add a little bit more of a dynamic you know, color there. It's not just one fill. Now what we could do again is we could probably take this multiply, drop it in again, and adjust this once more. Hope we don't crash. All right, and then let's change our blend mode here. See if we can get something that's something that works nicely. So I did kind of like the idea of going with like a light or lighter color, and then we could adjust the blend if option. Pin light's pretty nice too. Let's see. We'll go with multiply, and I'm going to knock out this rule here. And then we will change the color. So basically what we've done is we've introduced this color shift from the lights to dark, or rather from the mids to the light. Go to lighten, remove the black. I guess we'll go back to multiply. Bring this value up. All right, and then our this right here, we'll add a gradient to that. let's go with like a mid-gray. And we'll bring the opacity down. It gives you a little bit of of course, a gradient in the sky. And just for kicks, while we're here, I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to merge this down. Merge that layer. We'll apply the mask. I'll copy it just so I have the original to work with, and then let's do this. We'll go level. Whoops. Go to negative adjustments, levels, and then we'll the output levels will max out the black or the white at black, basically. We'll make everything dark, and then we'll go to blur. You can either do motion or radial. I'm going to go with motion. We'll go almost vertical, and we'll intensify that effect quite a bit. Let's see what angle is going to be most flattering for us. I guess it depends on the actual, which design we're looking at. Okay, we'll just go with that. And then we're going to shift the whole thing down. I guess it really doesn't matter. I'm going to go underneath everything. Totally unnecessary, but I don't know, doing it for kicks, I guess. There we go. Hard light, soft light. Which one of these is going to be? I'll do soft light. Within this group, let's do, we'll do a curves, and then we'll do a color balance, and we will call it there. And I might put this below our color adjustment. So that it's not being too wild with that. Okay, we'll go to our color balance. Huh, it's funny. Actually doesn't do much of anything. But we'll take it. Alright. At this point, you know, there's not too much that I feel is necessary. I think, you know, we could bring in some rim lights and stuff like that to try to accentuate the forms. But it's late, and I think it's probably time to call it. So, because I said it, I will do just a little bit of an adjustment here. But then I think we'll have to call it. And the idea here is that we're catching the light on the edge of the form. And so if there are forms that are in front of each other, it will, you know, start to clarify that. Kind of like you can think about it like a staircase or something, you know, like what step is in front of the other, and then you just put a rim on the edge of that. If that makes any sense. Helps to define what is in front of what. So it's not always always pertinent because it depends on your lighting situation. But since these are just design thumbnails, and we are in complete control of the light, where it comes from, and we want to do everything with the idea of communicating form, because that is what this that is the function of this exercise. And obviously some of these are still just blobs. Didn't do too much to them. Oh, sorry. Just looking at the chat. You said that your phone died. You asked what you missed. I wouldn't say that you missed much. We did a color balance. We added these stripes with just like a color layer. We made a few adjustments to kind of dial those into something a little more interesting. But other than that, just adding a rim light onto these to push and pull the forms. You know, I'm going to hide this really quick. You just see what of these we lost in bringing that mask in. It's funny, this one, did almost nothing. Almost nothing with this design. Well, I guess you could say actually nothing. Nothing really materialized as interesting to me in this form language. So. Looks more like a drone, I think. Maybe a space station rather than a ship. Okay. I'll fade that a little bit there. I'll hide this mask. Bring it back in. I think we'll bring this wing back in here. make this look a little more like smoke or something coming out. There's another one here that got no love. What happened here? I don't know. We'll make this one like an airship. Guess we have to turn this into something now, don't we? True Space Invaders. There. Okay. Well, I think that is just about going to do it for tonight. Now, what I could say with these is that if you look for the action lines and then you simplify based on that, I mean, maybe might have made more sense to start from there, but yeah, you can work from the action lines here. So what I mean by that is you could take this, for example, and just trim this down to like one clean line there, and then the bottom here maybe wipe that out like that. Then you have these cleaner forms and shapes. You can follow it. Here, for example, I had implied that earlier, but didn't quite follow through. And that would be to take this, this is one arc there. that change? I do like the simplification on the top here, but bottom not as much. See, that's kind of a counter shape there, so I might adjust this to maintain the same motion here. This kind of this sweep is going up. Of course, I have the wings kind of coming down. Actually, let's cut those in. Those are huge wings. And then tighten this up a bit there. That's not much of a design. You know, this isn't really explaining too much. It looks kind of like a quadcopter, but with 5. But it's not really telling us much besides that. So take it with a grain of salt. Okay. Yeah, I'd say generally speaking, you know, cutting in on a lot of those was beneficial to the design. And maybe some of these I might bring it back a little bit. But yeah, I think that's a good place to call it. I think I've got some ideas to play with. So the idea I started out with here was to kind of get some inspiration for 3D designs to bring into either gravity sketch for VR sculpting, or bring it into I don't know. One of the other ones was Quill, but I haven't tried that one yet. Gravity sketch seems to have some good tools that should be useful. So we'll start there, and then I'm thinking I'll bring it in to some PC apps, either Blender or ZBrush. Do any kind of mesh repair that I need to do, and then take it over for 3D printing. So this is all just kind of to test that process from VR to print, right? Which, you know, other people have experimented before, but, you know, now I feel like it's my turn. So anyway, this is just the kind of the sketch phase, get some ideas for designs. I think I'll call it here for tonight. Yeah, maybe a little more rendering than I needed to put into it. Let me hide these color layers there. So let me do, just copy one more of these. We'll add a hue, fill, new fill, solid. Okay, we'll hold Alt, bring this up, copy that layer over, and then this will just set to, maybe we'll do, yeah, color, and then we'll adjust this. And we'll change this blend mode here. That's interesting. Darken. That's kind of cool. Vivid light. Hard light. And I'll adjust this just a little bit. See what we get. That one's kind of cool. I think maybe we should add the effect, or rather the blend if option, where we are ignoring black. Let's hold Alt, click over here. Here we go. Now let's adjust it. Oh, that's kind of cool. Looks super bright. Orange. Maybe go more muted. I'll go there. Okay. I think that'll do it for tonight. So I'll wrap it up here. All right. Thank you guys for joining in tonight. And as always, hope you learned something. Hope you had a project going on the side. And if you have any comments or follow-up or any that sort of thing, go ahead and you can leave comments down in the on the video, or you can hit me up on Instagram or ArtStation. Instagram's probably the best, most direct way to get a hold of me. And it's just Eric Elwell Art, same channel name. And yeah, if you're interested in the brushes, of course tonight I was really only using a soft brush and a hard eraser rake, but I do have a couple of brush sets that are on ArtStation. if you're interested in picking up some brush sets, you can check those out. Of course, if you need to, you can wait for sales. They frequently run sales on ArtStation. I also have them on Gumroad and Flip Normals if you use those platforms. Yeah, that's about it for tonight. We should be doing this again next week, Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And as I had mentioned, I've mentioned it a couple times, I'm debating either adding another time or changing the time for this to accommodate some schedule changes. And also, we might approach this with a little more structure so that it's easier to follow along, because these are fairly random. It's whatever I feel like painting on a Wednesday night, which is the point of these. But I think we could also add in something else that has some clearer expectations. So I've been kicking those ideas around. If you have any thoughts on that, leave that in the comments. And I'd be glad to hear it. All right, well, that's it for tonight. Thank you for joining in, and have a good night.